Mr. Trump returned to Oval Office in his second term, it became very clear that he's a very experienced and astute businessman. Why Trump administration is punishing India? I think India seems to have betrayed the US. There is a sense of betrayal in the Beltway. It is not just economy, energy, foreign policy, but also defense sector, in which divergences between Washington and New Delhi are deepening and expanding.
There are multiple areas of disappointment in the White House and the Pentagon with respect to India, and that's showing up.
Problems in US-India defense cooperation, the recent conflict between Pakistan and India, that has received a lot of attention in the Indian parliament.
So everybody is making fun of Modi government. They are in a very tight bind, and to add insults to their injuries, Trump has penalized India in terms of tariffs. So they are in a very, very tight corner. With a fresh episode of The Weekend, I'm Murtaza Solangi.
And I'm Muhammad Ali.
Well, it has been quite an exciting week, especially when it comes to the August 1st deadline announced by President Trump on trade deals with different countries. As we stand, Pakistan got lucky. Before August 1st, Pakistan secured an important trade deal with 19% tariff, as opposed to 29% that was announced earlier. So in South Asia, probably Pakistan has the best trade deal that has been achieved. But the news about India is not so good, because it has been jacked up 25% plus 10% or more penalties for buying oil and gas from Russia and Iran. So, Muhammad Ali, how do you see these developments? I understand Indians are still trying to negotiate, but whatever has come out has thoroughly embarrassed Modi government.
Indeed, Mr. Solangi. But let me start off by making an initial comment that while Mr. Trump returned to Oval Office in his second term, it became very clear that he's a very experienced and astute businessman. And he has decided that he will use the economic leverage, the market access, and tariffs as the main instrument of his foreign relations and policy towards friends and foes alike. And he wants to repair American balance of trade with the friends and foes alike, which he thinks has been distorted, and the US has been let down and exploited, perhaps more by the friends than the foes, by providing exceptional and profitable market access. But I think in the last few months, while the world was waiting with a bated breath that what Mr. Trump is going to do in the trade and tariff domain, I think you will agree that Islamabad and Rawalpindi were never really worried. And there was always a sense of optimism, a cautious optimism that whatever the challenges, Pakistan and US will negotiate, address, and resolve them. But in contrast, there was a lot of concern in New Delhi, which is one of the strategic partners of the US as part of its Indo-Pacific strategy. But still, it has received the economic wrath of the Trump administration. But there are three reasons. Let me elaborate why Trump administration is punishing India, not just how. I think India seems to have betrayed the US. There is a sense of betrayal in the Beltway for a number of reasons. Most importantly, that instead of supporting the US, if not militarily, but in terms of economy and trade on the Ukraine war, diplomatically, India was neutral, frankly and candidly neutral. But in economic and energy cooperation, it was the second biggest importer of oil from Russia. To quote specific figures, last year India imported oil from Russia worth $52 billion. And that is almost $10 billion more than the entire US exports to Indian market. And this has really sort of angered Washington, because this tantamount to fueling and financing the Russian war on Ukraine, which the US wants to end through economic coercion and pressure on Western Europe particularly. And Western European NATO allies have been, despite their concern, have been more than forthcoming in reciprocating the US concerns and reducing their energy dependence with Russia, despite their economic advantages. The second major concern, which US has recently developed, is the realization that despite exceptional access to missile, aircraft carrier development, drone sales, and offer for F-35, latest fifth generation fighter, India does not seem keen on reducing its very close and heavy military dependence on Russian defense industry. In fact, according to the latest reports, the Indian military is considering buying a Russian fifth generation aircraft as a Su-57 as a competitor, in contrast to the F-35 American fifth generation fighter. And for the simple reason, because their logistics, their training, their data link, the technology and culture of Indian Air Forces is still heavily pro-Russia. And if they think that they buy Russian aircraft, it will be not only cheaper, but it will maintain Indian strategic autonomy, because India believes that Russia will not just sell a fifth generation fighter off the shelf, but will also offer transfer of technology and allow New Delhi to assemble these aircrafts later on within India, which perhaps may not be the case with the most modern F-35 aircraft of the US. So I think it is not just economy, energy, foreign policy, but also defense sector, in which divergences between Washington and New Delhi are deepening and expanding. So in that context, I see the tariff imposition of 20%, 25%, and also an extra, which is a punishment for India's continued so-called strategic autonomy and maintaining heavy and major energy and military dependence on Russia, and close energy cooperation with Iran as well. And around 6 Indian companies have also been named and sanctioned by the US. So I think the 15-year-old romance with Washington is beginning to show signs of problems, because India has not lived up to the US expectations. And in fact, there is no willingness from New Delhi to even reciprocate and address these growing US concerns. So I think I see it in that context. In contrast, you've noticed Pakistan, was not the most favored partner under the Biden administration. But in the last 6 months, we have, I think, both traditional and military diplomacy has yielded tangible benefits, and there is talk of very significant energy and oil exploration related collaboration between Pakistan and India, Pakistan and the US. And Pakistan has, I think, done another step very smartly, which is to offer US to buy American oil, in contrast to the Middle Eastern dependence, so that the concern of the US that the bilateral trade balance is heavily in Pakistani favor can also be addressed. So I think the approach of Pakistan is forthcoming, constructive, and it shows a sign that we want to move on and manage and diffuse the issues and build closer collaboration and cooperation in economy, in energy, in IT, in cryptocurrency, in security, intelligence with the US. And I think US is welcoming these steps. But beyond this, I want to ask you first if you want to add something to this very interesting development on the trade front, and also you can if you can comment on a very significant report which UN Committee on Al Qaeda has recently released about its contents.
Yes, I will come to that 36th report of UN Security Council Al Qaeda Committee. But I just want to add a few more things into what we were discussing. Trump presidency 2.0 mainly revolves around inward-looking economic growth and economic prosperity within the United States. Trump's voter base is mainly blue-collar American workers, plus the tech giants. They are his constituency. So that approach is mainly centered towards making America great again through economic means, reindustrialization of United States, more manufacturing outfits in United States, and less of a global policeman, which has been in the previous administration. That's why you see the fissures within NATO, trouble with European partners. So when United States can go to an extent of annoying European partners with over 7 or 8 decades of partnership, and even annoying NATO, then the love affair with India is very recent. The old love of being the global henchman, that's not predominant under Trump. So that's why the economic constraints or the economic incentives mainly decide how Trump will have relations with any country. The economic conflicts with India and demanding Trump, that's the main bone of contentions, because United States wants more access into Indian markets in terms of agriculture, dairy, and even automobiles. That's something that India is resisting. There's another element of disappointment especially in the military planners uh, in the Beltway, who have seen this latest confrontation with Pakistan in the month of May as a huge disappointment um, against India, because the way India fared in this conflict, they have been thoroughly disappointed. Actually, the world has been disappointed. So, if Pakistan emerges as the peer competitor to India, then all this many years preparations to pitch India as a bulwark against China has no future. So there are multiple areas of disappointment in the White House and the Pentagon with respect to India, and that's showing up.
Indeed, and I think as a last comment on this very interesting topic is that it seems that U.S. Policymakers are finally realizing that the Indian attempt to present itself as a U.S. partner in extending and defending the unipolar world order, and also hedging its bets with China and Russia to shape a multipolar world order by joining BRICS doesn't go well. It doesn't add up, and you can't be stepping in two boats which are at cross currents with each other, and be expected to enjoy the trust and goodwill of both camps, whose geoeconomic hostility seems to be more intense today than ever before. But I think it is also important that, in contrast to India, Pakistan has secured relatively less costly tariff arrangements if you compare it with some of the competitors in the textile sector. US is Pakistan's biggest export market. We have exports worth more than $7 billion, and almost 60% of that is textile related. And our competitors have been India, Bangladesh, Vietnam, Thailand, and Pakistan has successfully negotiated a more favorable and less costly tariff regime with the US than most of its competitors, particularly in the textile business. So that's good news for our textile industry. But I want you to, comment on the UN report on the
Yes.
on Al Qaeda, please,
Yes.
if you can.
I will come to that. What I will say is, besides other considerations in this Pakistan, India, US scenario, US and Europeans' main concerns are also in the areas of terrorism, Al Qaeda, Daesh. And in this region, if there is any country that has a huge experience of fighting terrorism, is not India, but Pakistan. And this has been acknowledged even by Trump when he hosted General Asim Munir in White House, that no country understands Iran better than Pakistan. And when it comes to managing that conflict between Iran, Israel, and US, it was Pakistan that, put itself at the front, managing that. So there has been admission. So this threat of terrorism and regional stability can be best addressed by a country by the name of Pakistan. So that's also, you saw recently there was a major conference of the defense chiefs of Central Asian republics, but that was also attended by CENTCOM chief and hosted by Pakistan. So Pakistan plays an important role that not only threats against US, but also against Europe and even Central Asia, China. Pakistan plays an important role. So Pakistan is the net security stabilizer in this region. That elevates Pakistan's position further. The recent report that has come out has some very alarming information. It says that Afghanistan remains the hub of these groups, Daesh and TTP, BLA, and it reports the cooperation between these groups. And it says that these groups, especially Daesh, Al-Qaeda, all these groups have partnerships, and they have latest weapons, and they share their training facilities. They are training young minor suicide bombers. They have access to latest cryptocurrency. So these developments have been reported in the recent report of UN Security Council, and I'm sure the world capitals, especially the countries of this region, would take strong exception to these reports.
But let me briefly ask you a follow-up question to this very important report. Has this report identified any particular country as a source of support for these terrorist outfits?
They have reported that it's a global report, but I'm only mentioning about South and Central Asia. And it says Afghanistan is the hub of all these groups. They are still operating in Afghanistan.
So that reinforces the recent Chief of Defense Staff a conference organized by Pakistan is concerned, and also reciprocates Pakistan's stance that Afghanistan needs to put its house in order. But let me ask you that all these developments that we have discussed so far related to tariffs, related to problems in US-India defense cooperation, the recent conflict between Pakistan and India, that has received a lot of attention in the Indian Parliament. And so I want to ask you, what is being given the most time and attention in the Indian Parliament? How do they see the state of India's position in world affairs? How do they see India's foreign and defense policy and recent conflict?
Modi government has tried to avoid this monsoon session. It was demanded by opposition, but they refused to hold a special session. They finally called this monsoon session on July 21st, but they decided to discuss the so-called Operation Sindoor only last Monday, exactly almost 80 days after this so-called operation they had launched against Pakistan. They had hard time explaining the losses of the planes, the response by Pakistan, the diplomatic isolation around the globe, and conveniently on the day, last Monday, when they knew that opposition will ask them what happened to those terrorists who attacked civilians in Pahalgam, they, on the very same day, they arranged an encounter and said, hey, look, here we killed those terrorists almost 100 days after the Pahalgam attack. They had been giving different stories. Once they said, oh, we have located that house or people who provided protection to these terrorists. Then they had issued sketches. Then their national intelligence agency said, oh, these were wrong sketches. And now Amit Shah was made a fool of himself by saying that, oh, we killed these terrorists. They had voter ID cards and they had even Pakistani chocolates 3 months after that incident. So everybody is making fun of Modi government. They are in a very tight bind, and to add insults to their injuries, Trump has penalized India in terms of tariffs. So they are in a very, very tight corner.
And let me briefly add to your last comment. I think beyond the foreign policy disaster and military debacle, I think this latest episode of high tariff imposition by Trump administration will further complicate Modi's domestic political challenges for two reasons. India has very successfully presented itself, I think, in the last 35 years as the world's largest democracy and also one of the largest markets, which is free to do trade on a liberal economic regime based on low tariffs. But the reality, which many economic experts know very well, is that the Indian economic rise shrouds the reality that it is based on major protection to its small farmers and small industry from international competition. And that is the heart of the grievance that Mr. Trump, not just as the US president, but as a 5-decade-long astute and experienced businessman, is very annoyed with. And he has frequently mentioned that in his tweets, that India is a friend, but it is very unfair towards its trade partners. And it has denied US a free access to agriculture and dairy industry, which employs hundreds of millions of Indians. And that is a very sensitive political issue. Because if India were to allow free market access to US and other countries, to particularly towards the heavily employed agriculture and dairy sector, it will create huge political challenges for the government. Because you remember that whenever any previous government considered or even discussed reducing the protection given to the agriculture, there were countrywide protests and sit-ins, which added to the political challenges of the government. So I think, in my view, this tariff imposition and US expectation of reducing tariffs for US exports to India and reducing the protection mechanism within India, particularly towards dairy and agriculture sector, will create much more political challenges for the Modi administration beyond the military debacle and the diplomatic challenges they have recently faced. But let me, in the last part of my program, ask your assessment of some of the major recent developments on the political front in Pakistan. How do you see them?
Well, May 9 verdicts have started coming out, and this suicidal confrontation by Mr. Khan and his party is coming to its conclusion. Many of their stalwarts have been sentenced 10 years plus per person, including a leader of the opposition in National Assembly and Senate. So they are in a very tight situation. To their misfortune, the economic and political conditions especially at the foreign policy level, are supporting the current administration. So this is another bad news for Mr. Khan and his party, since they have refused to adopt political attitudes and they have followed an anarchist path. So these are some of the latest developments.
Mr. Solangi, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your insightful assessment and analysis of some of the most significant global, regional, and domestic developments. Viewers, I hope you enjoyed this program. Don't forget to share your views, comments, and suggestions, and keep watching this space for more interesting and insightful analysis of what's going on around the world. Thank you so much for joining us.